Okay. So 3, 2, and you're going to do the introduction?
Yeah, when it's recording now, but we can go ahead and do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey guys, Neil and Julie here, and we are fresh back from a, dare I say, life changing, life altering weekend on so many fronts, from personal to relational, as spouse, as friend, as colleagues working together on something, to other people. I mean, so many things, all the things, and we're fresh back. We had some very thought provoking conversations with a wonderful couple that we are so blessed to get to know better, Bronson Dant and Natalie Grosso. They they're not just colleagues in the health space anymore that we follow, and they're yes, they're influencers. Yes, we follow them. Yes, they're subject matter experts, but now they're friends, and we love that. And they're wonderful. We love them and their perspective on things. So we had a lot of conversations over the weekend, and I put in a Facebook and other social media post about some card games that we play, Phase 10 and Spades, and we looked at some other stuff. Those were just precursors and a means to an end of getting to some real talk. And boy, oh boy,
We had some real talks.
we
The whole way home.
well, the whole time there, we had continual talks, because it's not like sitting down and they were just intermittent. Hey, while we're cooking. Hey, while we're getting ready to go do whatever, and just in the interim. And that, I think, that in and of itself, I think, is a big key to ongoing communication, perpetual communication, more frequent
Yeah.
checks and balances with our communication and just in communication in general. And yes, it was very, every part of it was just eye opening, and some of it is a refresher, some of it's was some brand new stuff, and some of it, I think I wrote earlier, every now and then you need a checkup from the neck up, and we've all got blind spots, and so sometimes getting around other people that you absolutely you're going to trust them. It's a circle of trust and environment where you can just be real with somebody, and so yeah, I'm so glad we did that. Yeah, we got a lot of information about the ketogenic lifestyle, the carnivore lifestyle, exercise and fitness and habit forming and all that. But yeah, it was so much more the emotional, behavioral, and for us as people of faith, the spiritual side of that too. So, so that sounds wonderful. That sounds great. But some nerves were struck in me, in us, in her, and yeah. So we just while the nerve was still exposed, we thought, what better time to kind of just bring it out and tell what we're thinking, what we're feeling, how we're processing. And so take it away, babe.
Oh yeah. Well, let's just start off. I missed work all of last week. I wasn't feeling real good, so right there for me, I ended up getting like really sick mentally and physically. So I missed work because of it, which many of those that know me know I never call out of work, like ever. So for me to call out of work, be concerned, because I really am sick. Like if I'm calling out, it's because I really don't feel good. So I don't ever really get sick. And so I spent the week, during the entire week, trying to slow down and try to rest. And I even had difficulty with that. And so I wrote a little something because it was very thought provoking. It was very evoking of the mind and changing, and it just. I'm just gonna read what I wrote because
What?
it took a lot of.
Yeah, when I say there's also, again, we're coming from a position of faith as well.
Hmm.
There's an enemy out there. The book that we read says there's an enemy and he wants to make you stumble and quit and give up, and then he's got you right where he wants you. And I think that's what some sickness. Well, I had some sinus challenges, and uh, you know, there's some other things, peripheral, extended family things that we're just having to handle, but attacks every step of the way to not get there.
Yep.
And
And to be truth be told, I was actually thinking about telling him to cancel our getaway weekend because I just didn't feel good, and I was just like, I said, you know what, I'm just gonna put on my Eber's face and I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go, and then, I mean, it wasn't just that day, but last Sunday, not this past Sunday, but the Sunday before. I was like, not today, devil, because we had the struggle of getting to church. I was like, what is going? No, we're going to church. All of us are going. Let's go. And I swear, every time I turned around, it was something else. It was something else, and I kept saying the entire time I was getting ready, I was like, not today, not today. We are going. We're going. And thank goodness we went.
oh, his army is staffed up really well. He's cherry picked his players.
Yes, and the funny thing is while we were at church, my husband had to leave the service during the service because he had to take a phone call, and it was a family um,
Situation.
yes situation that he had to deal with. And I was like, really? Like, we're no, we need to get back in there. And I'm so grateful that we were able to end the phone call and get back into the church and continue on with our day. And it just kind of snowballed. We got together with some friends, and after church, we went and had lunch, and that was another conversation.
And we made some decisions there about some other involvement.
Yes.
As well as
yeah.
what you were about to say that I interrupted you.
What was I going to say?
Oh, we made some decisions there about, schooling and things like that.
Yeah. And so it was just a real struggle. So with that being said, the entire week, I mean, I physically was sick. Like, I didn't have COVID. I had flu. But nevertheless, I felt better after several days, but it just physically exhausted me, and I wasn't able to have mental clarity. It was a struggle this week, but I'm so glad. So this is what I wrote because it took some time to process my thoughts. After a rough week at home, I wasn't feeling good mentally and physically. My husband took me on a weekend getaway to renew my spirit with him and friends. Enjoying the mountain views and the quiet of life, to do a little heart searching and reevaluating with where I am. There is nothing like questioning the choices and decisions that I have made as a wife, a mother, a friend, a coworker, and a stranger. When my life is quiet, it is often uncomfortable and non-existent, and I avoid it at all costs. Deep thinking with the heart often makes me uncomfortable, especially when I have conversations with my husband and friends that make me reevaluate what I can do differently or better, especially as his wife. Getting to the raw of the heart has a tendency to make me emotional. That often makes me think that I am weak. I gotta tell you, that word really just bothers me. Hearing the word weak and admitting that I am weak makes me deeply disgusted with myself. Words have power, and I tend to forget that, especially when I say something in a sarcastic, joking way. Due to my previous position in a different capacity, I have realized that I've allowed myself to become desensitized to negative influences and or words that were becoming powerful in my life. Not realizing that until this past weekend. This is not what I want for my husband or my family. Soul searching, really getting to the heart of the matter, can be freeing and scary. I definitely don't want to give any power to the sarcastic jokes and then brush it off. I'm just kidding. So that leads me to, what do you want in your relationships? And in seeing all that and being able to reevaluate, it's really uncomfortable for me. Honestly, before we left for our getaway, Neil asked me, he said, what's the difference between before our getaway and after our getaway? And I said, you know what? I went in thinking how confident I was as, a wife, a mother, a friend, a coworker, and in just in existence that I I thought I was confident in everything that I was doing, and I was always willing, hey, I've made a mistake, but it was more than just a mistake. It's knowing that your actions and your words are so powerful that even when you say it and you're just like, I'm really just trying to be funny, but it gives power to those words. And the more you do it, you don't even realize how you're crushing someone else. And because when you say it, those words become powerful, and the next person starts to believe it. And then what? You're like, I was just kidding. I was just kidding. But were you though? Would you have said it if you were just kidding? So it really just put a lot of
it first showed up as, and this is not just for both of us, it showed up as doubt, self-doubt.
Absolutely.
And then that turned into guilt. But then it's like, okay, wait. That's the path where the enemy wants to take you, but we're under grace. Look at the situation, look at the past in black and white. We live in the present in vivid color, and the future, well, that's paint by number. We're just starting to fill that in a little bit. Learn the lessons from the past. It's like, okay, what can we learn from where we are? Decisions made, you can't change them. And this is where mindfulness comes in, stoicism can come in, and just say, look, it is what it is. Past is the past. What lesson can we learn? Leave the emotional baggage of that, whether it's in the past or the emotions that we're feeling now about the past. Leave those behind. Learn the lesson and apply from here moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the desensitizing part of the, what did Bronson say? There's a shred of truth in everything that you say,
yep.
Even sarcasm. And if you look up the root of sarcasm, it's the word sarx. I believe it's Latin. It means to say the opposite of. It's like, you got a big mastiff dog, and it's, oh, look at that little puppy. Well, that is completely untrue. But have you ever heard this? That you tell a lie enough times, even you'll begin to believe it, and that happens, whether you're just kidding or not. And then that leads to taking things for granted. And well, they know I was kidding. Well, do they? Have they heard you say these words enough to where maybe, okay, I know he probably believes that to some degree. Now I'm starting to believe that to some degree. And then you start to question everything. And that is kind of where we were this afternoon driving back. We're like, crap, we got to rethink everything. And then again, that emotional, what do we tell the girls? Respond, don't react. We tell our clients this too, respond, don't react.
Right.
the knee-jerk reaction was, oh, everything's, the pendulum's got to swing all the way to the other end, throw the baby out with the bathwater, start from scratch. Well, first off, you can't do that. Second off, that's a reaction that we need to take a breath and respond appropriately. One of the big themes of our conversations this weekend was context. Look at the context of both the sender, the message itself, and the receiver. If all of those are lined up within the same context, then you can process that and you can appropriate that and make necessary changes. And there could be degrees within those three elements too.
Right.
But now if someone has no commonalities with you, then that they could say whatever and it might be valid for somebody else, but it's out of context for maybe our situation.
Right.
So we had to put all of this into context and and still reevaluate a lot of things. And that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You look at that in context. That's going to be the buzzword of the week, I think, is in context.
Well, and the other thing too is that even when if you're gonna say something sarcastically, and you're gonna end it with "I'm just kidding, it's just a joke," why does it have to be a sarcasm joke? Why can it not be something more of enlightenment? And I think, for example, I always make the joke about being deaf. I am deaf. I grew up with people telling me how I'm deaf and dumb. Oh, I don't understand. I missed it. Don't, forget it. And I would say, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Or I would say, of course, my famous words back then were, what? Huh? So with that being said, the response I would always get is, never mind. It's okay. You don't need to worry about it. And instead of taking offense to my hearing impairment, I started to play it off as, you know what, that's okay. It obviously isn't that important. And then I would just step it up and just be like, okay, that's fine. So, in using that analogy, what I'm trying to say is that there's a way to communicate with people and saying, I really didn't hear you. I know you said it's not important, but I really feel like I missed something. Can you go ahead and please repeat yourself? And instead of brushing it off. I don't want to be desensitized. I feel like our daughters, especially our two youngest, I feel like they have been desensitized on how they really feel about things. I'm not saying get overly emotional or dramatic or anything, but really taking to heart what you're saying to someone or what someone says to you and how you can change it around. We need a lot of positive light in this world right now. We need to be able to feed one another positivity as much as we can. I know people make, funny comments about being kind to the next person you see. And was it yesterday that I went off while we were on the weekend and I walked around?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yesterday,
she just took a side trip by herself. She didn't go off on somebody.
Yeah, well, and because after several of our conversations, I had difficulty processing, and I couldn't sit still, and that is very difficult for me. Neil, I'll tell you, I don't do quiet. I have the TV on, and he's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "I don't know. It's just noise."
I don't know. I don't know what I'm watching because I'm also playing my game on my tablet and doing Wordle.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Wordle.
But with that being said, it was just a matter of having noise. And when life gets really quiet for me, I mean, when I take out my hearing aid, my world goes really quiet. And if I take out my hearing aid, it's either because I didn't want to listen to somebody or I'm going to bed. Or I'm going to bed and going to sleep. So having a quiet world, it intentionally is really difficult for me. It makes me really uncomfortable. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I wish I could do that. Take out my hearing aid and just have quiet. And that's fun too. But wrapping it back around, when I went yesterday, when I went off by myself to kind of process things, and Neil was like, well, do you need me to go? And I said, no, I don't need you to go. And and then I went off to this little shop, and I could tell because I can't hear very well. Most of the time, I pick up somebody's vibe, energy, whatever you want to call it, and I could tell she was struggling with something. And she said something, but I couldn't hear her very well. And I turned around and I said, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm deaf. I read lips a lot. I'm not ignoring you. So if you say something to me and I don't respond, I'm not ignoring you." And she was like, "Oh, okay," and then we talked for a few minutes. And by the time I left the shop, she was smiling, and I brought some, even though I was struggling with some of the things that I mentally, emotionally was going through, struggling with how to process what I heard. And to know that I made her smile by the time I left made me feel like, okay, I can be a positive light to someone. I know I am. I hear people tell me that when I smile at them when I'm working, and they're like, you can't help but smile when you're around because all you do is smile. But I wasn't really smiling all that much yesterday. It was a struggle. And then today was a real struggle too. And especially on our way home. And I don't like getting emotional. For me to get emotional, it it's not for attention, and that is something I struggle with because I feel like if I'm getting emotion, then I'm begging for attention, and I'm not trying to beg for attention. I'm just having a hard time swallowing my pride. I guess that would be the word to use. Swallowing my pride and actually being able to keep it real. Why does that bother me so much? Why did this impact me the way that it did? Why does it hurt to try to voice something and ask a question that you really don't want to hear the answer to, or that you think you might hear the answer that would make you uncomfortable? And so, in seeing that, there's always room to grow. And I look forward to being able to grow. I want to be a positive influence because I think we have too much negative energy and too much negative influences, and everybody struggles, and including me. I'm good at brushing it to the side and saying, you know what, it's okay. It's another day. I get to wake up another day. I get to drive my kids a little crazy another day. I get to tease my husband another day. I get to just to be able to wake up another morning means I have another day. And not everyone has another day. So,
If you woke up on the right side of the grass, it's a good day.
yeah.
Now, here's something. See, you didn't tell me that whole story about who you met out there. There's so much in that just by itself. When we have stuff that, when it gets quiet, real quick, here's a way, well, I'm not deaf. I can't just take my hearing aid out. No. But you know what you can do? And this ties back into getting some mindfulness practice into your day. You can always put an earbud in and listen to some, nature sounds or a singing bowl or something. and just sit alone with yourself. And the more that you can do that, they say sit in your own discomfort. What That's going to happen. It's going to happen. But then once you get used to that and you're like, okay, I'm sitting here, this is not comfortable. Now you're forcing yourself to gently, so you've got some control of the intensity of this to where you can gradually begin to address this stuff. But you have to be intentional about addressing this stuff. And that's my next point. So through either taking out a hearing aid or some focused meditation, some scheduled time to meditate and be alone with your thoughts. This isn't, again, we're people of faith. This is not prayer closet. This is something very different, yet still scriptural. But once you begin to deal with this stuff, you're going to become more, it's like a muscle. You're going to start to build that muscle of facing a situation, an issue with somebody else, with yourself, with your interactions, whatever it may be. The challenge that a lot of people have, that I have sometimes, that I know you've had in the past, is something comes up and you know what? I don't want to deal with that. It's too uncomfortable. And you know what? I'm going to reprioritize. I'm going to deflect onto my husband, my spouse, my kids, my work, my this. I'm going to get so busy. It's too quiet. I'm going to create a bunch of noise. So I can't deal with that. My life is too noisy right now. I can't focus on it.
Right.
And that's dangerous, because then you become desensitized to your own situations, your own challenges, and you don't even realize that you have them until it gets to the powder keg explodes. So, if anything, word to the wise, learn how to, in a controlled environment, which your home should be the most controlled environment that you have. If you have a spouse, a partner, get with that person. If you don't, you've got a trusted friend. I don't mean a BFF. I mean a true 3:30 in the morning, life and death situation, you can call them kind of friend. That's what I mean. It could be a friend, it could be a pastor, it could be somebody just that you have that kind of relationship with. Get with that person who can be gut level honest, tell you the hard answers, the hard truths, and be willing to walk, not just tell you what to do, but walk alongside of you and help you navigate some maybe unfamiliar waters.
And sometimes, I have even gotten to a point where I just talk to God and I'm like, I don't have an answer. And you know what? It may not come that day, but I have where I've talked to God and I'm like, I just don't understand. Why am I having to struggle so much? Like in my previous marriage, for example, prime example, I couldn't understand why my marriage was failing. Like, I had faith. We were both Christians. We were both going to church. We were proactive in our church. And why was my marriage crumbling? I don't understand. I have done everything you've ever asked me to. Why are you not protecting my marriage? And I didn't get an answer right away. And it took some time. I had to learn to just it is what it is, and I had to trust God that He was going to put me in the right situation. And several years later, not about 2 years later, I met this gentleman, and God was prepping me because He knew that I finally realized my second marriage was not as blessed as I thought it was going to be. It was a learning curve for me. I learned a lot during that time. I grew during that time. But I realized that I had my own agenda at that time. And I thought I was doing everything I was supposed to do during that marriage. And I learned quite a bit during that time. And so when God brought him into my life, it, I, I mean, things started putting things together. Like I went to nursing school. I got my nursing degree. I was told I couldn't have kids anymore. We had our youngest. She was a blessing. I had a faith-based household and a husband who was leading the family. And so with him leading our family, with sharing his faith-based, his strong will to live for God, and that's what I had prayed for. It didn't happen overnight.
And you had to realize some things, and then I mean we could talk about grace, and there's so many. We could talk for days, for months, probably the rest of our lives about just those few launching points that you just mentioned.
I know.
We're not going to.
With that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to say, what do you want in relationships? And put that down in the comments and let us know. And maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, and maybe not so much. What do you want, like a grocery list, or genie in a bottle? What are you willing to bring to a relationship? Trust, a listening ear, non-judgment. What are you willing to accept in a relationship?
And what is your struggle with relationships? As far as like one of my struggles was understanding that some of the things that I was saying was, even though he didn't say it, I recognized that I wasn't empowering him. And that's what I want. I want to empower my husband because he does lead our family. He is our protector. And like Bronson said, there's the protector and then there's the nurturer. I want to be the nurturer. I like being the nurturer, knowing that so Bronson said it perfectly. The protector, he
goes out to protect.
And then the nurturer
stays in to protect.
So, and I like that analogy. And I really believe that analogy. I don't have to be big and bad and protect the outside. He can do that. And I want him to do that. Everybody's different, but that's what I want in my relationship with my husband.
So, a lot there. And hopefully some of it can be useful. Yeah, at least 3 minutes of this video, I'm sure it's going to help somebody. This is from the heart. Like I said, this was we got home a couple hours ago, had some dinner, and now we're like, this is raw nerve stuff. Strike while the iron's hot. Let's just get it out there, and let people know that sometimes you need to keep an open mind for your perspective, context, so many things, and again, we've barely scratched the scratch on the scratch of the conversations that that us had with Bronson and Natalie, and it was a great weekend, and we're excited for the future. It took a little mental readjustment to sift through some things throughout the weekend on the ride back, but we've already our spirits lifted. We are in a much better place now. Okay, so it's like we were putting pieces together in a puzzle. It's like, okay, the puzzle kind of changed a little bit. Now the pieces that we had, they fit in this puzzle now. So it's making more sense. Things are starting to line up a little bit better. So we're hopeful. We're very hopeful for tonight, tomorrow, the next day, and in all areas, whether it's relationships or faith, business, school, work, you name it, diet, nutrition, fit whatever. Fill in the blank. We're very hopeful, and some of these tools like context. That's if there's a theme to the weekend, I think that was it. Was context, and then in this particular case, context within relationships.
Yep.
So anyway, with that, there's going to be plenty more. Like I said, we've got so many more things we could do, and maybe we'll do this again and continue that on a part 2 or part 3 or part 7. Who knows? But again, we just wanted to get it out to you guys while it was hot and fresh, hot off the press. So anyway, with that, we're going to let you go. And drop us a comment, drop us a line, and if you want to know more about the weekend, but if you want to know more about some of this mindfulness, stuff, that's part of our practice is mindfulness, and some tools to help you with that. We'd love to have a chat with you if you got a question about relationships. We'll do what we can.
Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Bye.